Good morning. I am back and feeling more human today. I was sick all weekend, in case you missed it. And I think one of the important self-care concepts that I had to learn this weekend was to let Craig take care of me. And I actually allowed that to happen for once, which is huge because I always when I get sick, I just kind of like push through it and just continue doing all the things that I normally would do. And I never just take the time to rest and recover and recuperate. And Craig is always trying to do that for me and trying to give me the gift of being a caretaker when I'm sick. And I'm usually not allowing him to do that. So one of my big self-care lessons this weekend was to just step back and let other people step in and take over. And that felt really good. The first day I felt guilty. I shared on Saturday that Ava had a horse show and I felt terrible for not going to that. But on the other hand, there's like no way. I'm so glad that I stayed home. It was cold out and Saturday was the worst day. I felt really bad and stayed on the couch all day. And then yesterday, Craig got the groceries and he made dinner and he did the laundry and he took care of everything this weekend. So it felt really, really good to be able to step back and view that through the lens of self-care, that, you know, sometimes just allowing other people to step in and do things is a means of self-care too. So I love that happened during this week. I think, you know, I'm always a big believer in everything's meant to be. And I think that getting sick this week was a big lesson for me. So maybe that will be beneficial to you too. So anyway, thank you for joining me this Monday morning. We are talking about upgrades today. We're going to talk a little bit about money mindset too. And this is a weird topic. And it's one that I think as women, we don't talk a lot about money. And when I first shared this book 5 years ago, I got a little backlash from people that didn't really understand what the book was about. But I will go back and tell you first that this is a book I discovered when I was working with a business coach. When I first started GYPO and first started the Style Challenge, you know, I've never ran a business before. I had no idea what was involved in it. And I knew that I had to go find some experts to help me. Otherwise, I was just like flailing. So I worked with a business coach for a year. And in every one of our sessions, you know, I would start talking about money. And, you know, she would say, you have a lot of mindset issues when it comes around money. And you have a lot of money blocks. You know, I really think that you would benefit from reading this book. And it'll help you work through that. And I was like, oh, I'm not worried. I don't need that. I don't need that. But I finally relented. I finally read the book, and I'm so glad I did, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more later. But some of my money blocks that I was having were around actually making money in my business. And I struggled with that because I was doing something that I loved, and it just felt weird to be making money from it. I know that sounds so weird right now. And it took me forever to even start accepting a salary from my business. And I was coming from a place of a lot of scarcity. I had been laid off before I started GYPO. I was assigned a career counselor through my company. And I had taken the layoff. This was something that I wanted. So that made things a little bit different, but it was still really, really scary. So I had 6 months of severance, which I planned to stretch for a year. And I worked with a career counselor, and she said, I think you just really need to put your all into get your pretty on and see what happens with this. You know, take 6 months and really pour yourself into it and see what happens. So I did that. Actually took almost a year. It was 9 months. I had 3 months of severance left in the bank account, and I was making no money at all. So that was a really, really scary time for me, and almost like a gift, truly a gift from God. The Style Challenge then came to be, and I finally saw a means for blogging to become a potential replacement for my income. Oops, the FedEx guy's here. You're probably gonna hear my dogs bark. Hopefully he doesn't ring the doorbell. He didn't. Thank you. All right. So anyway, yeah. So back to the money blocks. And then, once I started making money, I was like hoarding it because I was scared. I came from the scarcity mindset and from the place of, oh my gosh, we could lose everything at any moment. And there was a lot to work through there. So it was really hard at first. And thankfully, we have done Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University, which if you haven't done that, it is life-changing. And we had a really good handle on our finances by the time all of this transpired. I'm going to say that was not the case earlier in our marriage, which is a different topic for a different day, and I'm happy to talk about that too. But it was really life-changing, and I don't think we could have done that year living off my severance and essentially cutting our income in half if we hadn't done Financial Peace University and we hadn't already been implementing all that stuff. So anyway, back to the money blocks. So I got this book, and don't be turned off by the title. It's really, it's called Get Rich Lucky Bitch. Forgive the language. And it's really about releasing your money blocks. And one of the concepts and it's by Denise Duffield-Thomas, if you want to look for this or pick it up. One of the chapters in here that was really impactful at the time was the one on upgrades, upgrade your life now, where she talks about how a lot of times we cheap out on ourselves and we send a message that we're really not worth it. And, I think as women and as moms, a lot of us are guilty of this. Like, we'll do things for our kids all day long, but when it comes to us, we just cheap out on ourselves. And I am as guilty of this as anybody else. This is something I've had to work on consistently, but it's also something that's made a huge difference. And once I grasped this concept from the book, it really changed everything. And this is something I still to this day ask myself, like, are you cheaping out on yourself on this? And it's really not about spending more money. It's not about, getting yourself into a place where you're hurting your finances in any way, shape, or form, but it's really about working on your mindset and sending this message to yourself. And I want to read to you an excerpt from this. She says, you don't even need to spend that much money to feel richer. Sometimes the difference between the cheapest option and the next best is only a few bucks, especially for consumer goods like coffee or tea, hand soap, chocolates, hummus, or stockings. Your basic bar of cheap chocolate is a few dollars, and the fancy version could be double that, but in the grand scheme of things, it's still a cheap luxury that will make you feel richer, and you'll probably eat less of it too. And it's so true. Like, how many times do you want the Godiva, but you reach for the Hershey? There's not a lot of difference there, but it's really about sending this message to ourselves that we're worth it and that we deserve nice things. And, another example that I gave in the video for this exercise was she talks about your panties. Let's talk about panties today. Why not? And how she was wearing, the cheap granny panties from Walmart or whatever. And she was talking about how what would feel luxurious to her was buying some La Perla lingerie. And she was talking about how we don't have to always go from the cheapest option to the most expensive option. You can make incremental upgrades in there that'll still make you feel like you have a little luxury in life. Like, there's cute panties at Target or Victoria's Secret or whatever, but just spending the few extra bucks to send the message to yourself that you're worth it. I use the example of that I used to drink crappy coffee. I love coffee. Like, coffee is life. You've heard me rave about my new obsession, which is Summer Moon coffee. But I used to buy the yucky coffee because it was so cheap. And I had to, force myself to change my mindset around that and buy the better tasting coffee. And it's just a simple luxury that I enjoy every single morning of my life that was just a few bucks difference per week. So, just don't always cheap out on yourself. Look for opportunities where there are places that you can incrementally upgrade some things in your life, even if your budget isn't you don't have a lot of wiggle room in your budget. So, you know, I always encourage women to upgrade something in their wardrobes with each style challenge. I think if you have something that you love and you've worn it for years, like let's say leopard flats, for example, this is something that I personally upgraded, and you've worn them to death and you bought the cheap pair at Target and they wore out, then that's an area that you can look into upgrading and buying a better quality pair that's going to last longer. Or maybe it's a handbag or a trench coat or some kind of investment piece that you can get years of wear out of. Look for opportunities to upgrade things like that. Another example that I used was my sheets. We upgraded our sheets, and every night when I get into bed, we get into these nice sheets, and it just feels good. But you know, just look for opportunities. And expensive and quality are two different things. So just because something costs more doesn't necessarily mean it's better quality. So definitely keep that in mind too when you're looking at this. But I just wanted to read to you a couple more things from this book. If you really can't bring yourself to spend more money, or things feel tight, you can start by wearing your favorite clothes more often. That is a totally free upgrade. You can wear your favorite outfits. Like, think about the things that we keep in our closets, or, you know, we've heard the example used oftentimes of, we don't use our nice china for regular days, you know, like get the nice china out. Wear your favorite clothes more often. They may actually be the only things left in your wardrobe after you do a decluttering, and that's so true. Like, if you did a true decluttering of your closet, then the things in there should be the things that you absolutely love and you want to wear all the time, so wear them all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. Use the beauty products that you reserve, the nicer things. Use your perfume every day. Give yourself some extra minutes to do your hair and makeup. These are all free things that'll make you feel amazing. Yeah, we don't think about time, but seriously, you know, just a few extra minutes that you spend on yourself can be a powerful upgrade in and of itself. She says, lastly, you commit to taking everything to the next level, but not all at once. Just pick one or two symbolic things to work on each week and see how it feels. And you know, that's why I put this chart in the PDF that you can download, so that you can keep track of some things that you want to upgrade, and maybe you pick one or two per week and you start slow and you pick things that are easy or free. One of the things that she talks about in the book too is that maybe, you know, you're driving a car that you're not necessarily happy with and you would love to upgrade it to whatever the next level car is in your mind. But you can take the car that you have now and go get it cleaned and put something in it that makes it smell good, and you're instantly going to love driving your car that much more. So there are lots of free ways that you can upgrade your life. She talks about, you know, getting your hair professionally done, which was one of my mindset issues that I recently, like within the past year, I used to color my own hair all the time. And I just recently decided that it's so much easier and so worth it for me to go every 4 to 6 weeks and get, you know, my grays covered and get my hair done professionally. Another one that came up for me this past week, and this is in regards to my business. And again, I'm just like, I'm dumbfounded every time that I do one of these exercises and seeing the parallels that it has in my life right now. And honestly, I hadn't picked this book up in 5 years, and I just picked it up this week, and I'm realizing that I should probably give it a read again because it's just so good. And there's so many great concepts in here. One of them was she talked about hiring a bookkeeper, and she realized that if she wanted money to be a priority in her life and business, that she needed to be better organized with it, and she was neglecting her bookkeeping. She said this was a really symbolic upgrade for her. And I had this happen this past week. I finally, you know, I've been struggling the past few years with keeping on top of knowing like all of my tax obligations in the business and trying to educate myself on finances and feeling like I had to know everything when there are experts out there that have the breadth of knowledge in this area that I will never possess. And just going this past week, one of my tolerations was, and this is a big toleration, it should have fallen under the goals category more than a toleration, but was to find a CPA firm that could handle everything, a turnkey CPA firm that could handle everything from the bookkeeping to all of the tax filing. This was such a huge relief for me to find a competent professional that was able to like immediately give me relief and take this burden off my shoulders. And it's something I put off for so long, but it sent a huge message to myself that I'm serious about this part of my business And it is, and it's been life-changing. I throw that word around a lot, but honestly, my gosh, I can't even tell you how good it feels to have this area of my life handed over to someone else. So that was a huge, huge upgrade. But as far as what your exercise is for this week, and you can download the PDF at getyourprettyon.com/newyou. This is the Rediscover Me Day 10 challenge, and I want you to look for areas this week where you can make these small upgrades in your life. You can use some of the examples that I gave you, or you can look for examples of your own. I think this is really fun, and it's a great area. Again, it's not to create dissatisfaction, but it's to set some goals and to really send the message to yourself that you're worthy of nice things. And if you're doing this for everybody else in your life, but not for yourself, then I want to give you permission, first of all, and I want to give you accountability. I want you to join our private Facebook group and let us know what upgrades you're making. I think that you'll inspire others, and you might give them some ideas of some areas where they can upgrade to. So thank you guys for tuning in today. I hope you have an awesome Monday, and I will see you back here tomorrow for our day 11 exercise for self-care week. Bye.